Welcome to this masterclass with John Alexander on mental rehearsal in sport. My name is Anthony Ecker. Many years ago, in my early 20s, Greg Chappell, Australian captain of cricket and one of the greatest batsmen in the world, retired. He was being interviewed by a Courier Mail journalist who asked him, what did he put his great success down to? I expected him to talk about his brothers, Ian and Trevor, and the competitiveness in the backyard, and cricket was their life, etc. But no, he surprisingly answered that he put his success down to a technique he learned by Dr. Peter Honzatko many years before on mental rehearsal, learning how to practice his sport in his mind. Many years later, I was lucky enough to interview Greg and we spoke about it. And in brief, what he spoke about is that the team were not together all the time back then. So he used this technique every single night. He would go home, he'd sit in his chair, a comfortable chair in his lounge room, he'd turn the lights down, he'd play a game of cricket. He might play the West Indies one night. He might play England the next night, or South Africa. But every night, he would play a game of cricket in his mind. That is what he put his success down to. I've spent the last 25 years or so in the Olympic Games, being around some of the world's greatest athletes. Obviously, you enjoy seeing the incredible performances on the field of play. But it's also extraordinary to see what happens off the field of play. You go to the top or the start of the downhill, or for example, the luge or the bob, and you'll see all the athletes dressed up, about to be in the most important race of their life. Their eyes are closed, their hands are often out, and they're going down the slope. And you can see whether it's a long right-hand turn, left hand, sharp, or run, getting in position. On the luge, you can, sitting there again, going down, and they're seeing the turn and the bend and the line they want to take in and out, and then to the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one. It's a core part of sport and has been for a long, long time. I've spoken with many athletes about it, and today we're very lucky to have John Alexander, someone with extraordinary experience, from dinghies through to axles, through to America's Cup yachts, talking about his experience in the use of mental rehearsal in sport. I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed interviewing John.
Hi, I'm John Alexander. I've been competitively racing across the world from the age of 18 in things like the Admiral's Cup offshore, Sydney Hobart races, Middle Sea races, with the Finn, the Olympic class, and one of the highlights was doing the America's Cup campaign for South Africa in 2007.
I ask you, how much do you use mental rehearsal preparing for example, this Masters?
So with the Masters that are coming up in Italy, we have something like 400 Masters competing, from gold medal level, international level, national level champions. So we have a fleet of 4 with 100 vessels in each fleet. Now that's quite a big number, and it's a big playing field. So one has to, first of all, get physically fit, secondly, get good equipment, but mainly, the main thing that I do now, 2 weeks out, or 3 weeks out, or 4 weeks out, is study the weather very closely and how the weather patterns work. And then we know the course will be upwind, downwind, so it's an upwind, downwind, and then finish. What I do is I'll practice in my mind in the early morning, about 6 or 7, about how I'd actually approach that race. First race, or the second race, or the third race. I'll think through my mind about where the fleet is going to be, how they're going to approach the line. Maybe I'll come in my mind and practice coming in from the port end at 3 minutes, It's a long line, it's a 3-minute long line, and look for a gap and go in. And if that doesn't work, what my bailout strategy is, and if that's bad, what my recovery strategy is. So in my mind, I have a model going through, working through, and visualizing my way to the first mark. And then depending on how I get there, how I get to the next mark, and so on. And I have to visualize in my mind how to relax and understand how my mind makes things work. Because there's a physical strength side to it, but the biggest side to it is the mental concentration, dealing with losses, capitalizing on gains, and at the same time, while your pulse rate is very high, because these boats are physical, is keeping your mind outside of the boat. So one has to rehearse many, many times in one's mind, a long time before, about how you're going to approach that race, how you're going to deal with the crowd before the launch, how you're going to deal with the egos who are going to try and get you and psych you out, how you keep yourself focused.
Could you go back to, okay, you said you do it in the morning, but you get up and have a shower and go to training. Do you just go straight there? Do you sit in the same chair? Where do you actually do this?
Oh, well, while we're here in Tasmania, a long way from anywhere, I normally wake up before the daybreak, get a cup of tea, collect the dogs, and I do it walking along the beach. So I can feel the wind, I can see the water, I can see the wind working on the water. So while I'm thinking about preparing for the race and doing the race in my mind, I'm actually looking out at the weather, looking at the water. So I can see the wind moving on the water, I can see the tide moving on the water, I can see the clouds, and I imagine that's where I'm racing. So it's where it sort of gets you in, immerses you into the environment you're going to be racing in. Sitting in a chair is okay, but doesn't bring your senses, because when you're sailing, your senses that feed in from the wind on your face, from the sounds on the water, to the feel of the water. That's what matters. So I do it in the environment that I'm going to be competing in.
So, if you could explain what it's like for you. You're walking along, and you obviously got your visual and physical senses, as you've got your dogs with you and you're enjoying. But then you've got competition going on, a completely separate, like a different channel, which is focused on the sailing. I'm just trying to picture in my mind where the focus is, or is it not even a thought, it's just you, like driving, I suppose you're driving the car, but you're thinking about something else.
That's a good analogy, yes. It's just like driving a car. When we do long car drives, which we do in Australia, sometimes you don't even remember where you've driven, but you remember your thoughts. So we go into that place of almost meditation. As you walk and the breeze is on you, there's nobody on these beaches down here, so you can just think about it, think it through. Think about the preparation, think about how you're going to set your boat up, think about when you should actually go in the water, because that's another thing. When you launch in a big fleet, you can get caught with a lot of trouble. You can go out early or you can go out late. Do you engage with people early? Do you not? So it's in your mind, you're just walking through, I guess, a bit like you said, what do you do when you wake up in the morning? Well, when you're doing a regatta and an event, you have to get up in the morning. You have to eat and you have to prepare for the day. So I'm running through that in the morning. I'm getting up, I'm eating. Am I going to the boatyard early to get my boat ready? Did I prepare it the night before so I can go in late? Have I got my food, my nutrition right? Have I seen what the weather forecast is? And have I got some brief details on the forecast? Sometimes I have a coach, so the coach will sit down with me and we'll both sit together and meditate that. We'll walk through the race, how we're going to do it beforehand. So I'm actually practicing that in my mind as I walk along that beach.